Go. So three, two, one. Hey, this is Dean with the Two Party Podcast. I am on here with Joe Weatherford, um, an amazing guest I discovered on one of the websites looking for guests on the show. One of the reasons I really wanted to get her on is as people that follow the show and some of our fans, they know my background, they know my history with addiction, with alcoholism, where I started and where I ended up now, and kind of where my path of recovery went. And so for me, I think it's a great opportunity to share another successful story of a human being that's lived through so many things, but can have a testament and a testimony to share that can hopefully reach down and lift others up. So Joe, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Probably the easiest way to sum it up, I'll just tell you one of my worst moments, and that will sort of paint that picture, and then to where I am now, without going into all the gory details in between. But at the height of my addiction, I'm 23 years old. I'm living in Newport Beach. I'm dating a guy that plays for the Chargers. I'm partying at the Playboy Mansion. I'm a model. I'm shooting in the adult industry for a lot of the different publications. On paper, it seemed like I really had it together,
Right,
and,
right.
and
Living the dream that someone that age would want to be living.
yeah, I
They
mean,
they think, right?
right. Like it seemed glamorous.
Yep.
And the reality was, I woke up on my kitchen floor. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what time it was. And I really wanted to die. And it was beyond just, I don't want to be here anymore. I mean, this was like the first time I shouldn't say the first, one of the first times though, that I was really ready to do something about it. So on
So
paper,
was this just real quick? Was that a feeling you had had previous, or was this just kind of it really just all hit you?
yeah, it's a good clarifying question. I mean, honestly, I came into this world kind of with that feeling. I was a
Right.
weird kid. I had a diary at 4 years old. And I actually found it later. And I mean, I'm at 4 years old writing, like, what is the point? Like, I was
Right.
very,
Things that you're not doing till you're a teenager, right?
yeah. I just started at 4 instead of 13,
Right. So there was
Yeah.
something there. So this moment, waking up on that floor, was kind of a big impact.
Yeah, and it was one of the moments that I actually scared myself, which my threshold was really high for that. So the fact that I was like, "Uh-oh, I'm really not okay," really shook me. And I remember I called my mom and I said, I need to go to rehab. And so I did. And I stayed sober for a year and a half, which was great
Hmm.
because it kept me alive. But then started drinking again, then got arrested, then suicide attempts, waking up in mental institutions.
Yep.
It got really
What do they
bad.
say? Jail, institutions, and death, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. And that was me. And I've worked in the mental health field now for 13 years. And I will
Wow.
say I was one of the worst
That's
alcoholics I have ever met.
you were your best patient. And
Yes.
I look at myself in that aspect. I look at some of the reflection and some of the stuff I do looking in the mirror. And still, I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm still daily dealing with looking in the mirror and saying, hey, I don't like this. I need to work on this. I need to be accountable to myself that this is not who I want to be. And so I'm my own best patient sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it is amazing. People think like, oh, I'm just going to take away the substance and then it's going to be great. But it's like you just took away your one coping mechanism. And now
The only one you've relied on. Yes.
all the shit you were running from your whole life is
Comes
still
right
there,
back.
but now you don't have your safety blanket, and welcome to
Yep.
absolute life. And yeah, so that was, I mean, where I come from, where I am today now. I became a university professor. I taught courses on addiction for 12 years at the University of Nevada. I've worked with clients for over 12 years. It's amazing. Like, I love my life. I have healthy relationships. I've never once thought about drinking again. Yeah, I work out all the time. My body's in great shape. I dream something up, I make it happen. It's
Right.
just, it's,
It's
it's awesome.
I was gonna say it's amazing. So, a little bit about my background is, I want to say 2014, 2013, 14 was kind of a pivotal point in my life. Um, as an addict, I got cut. My son was born in 2008 from a one night stand situation. Was told by that person she's going to have the baby just for the child support. She doesn't care if I'm anywhere around. Had done this to a previous husband and lost the kid due to drugs because of her addictions. So it was really a mess, and in the midst of it I was partying and doing stupid stuff. So at that point I didn't want this kid to come into the world to be that way. So I started slowly making changes right around the time he was born in '08, but I never really took it serious. I ended up getting full custody of him in 2010, still an addict, still an alcoholic. But I was doing the right thing. My path was I had the right direction. I wanted to be the right parent. I wanted to take care of this kid and save him from the addiction world that he was coming from, but I still wasn't there. So it wasn't until about 2013, 14 that me and him up and left Florida. We went across country to Oregon and Washington with some family. I ended up here shortly thereafter, ended up here in Oklahoma from a good friend I haven't spoke with in 20 years brought me out here. Guy that runs a ministry now, just a really good friend I hadn't spoke with in 20 years, made an offer for me and my son to get here and get stable. But it was literally at 2013 where I started looking in the mirror and I was like, I'm not a good father. I, I'm I know it's the drugs. I know it's the alcohol. I can't let it go. Like you said, it was my coping mechanism for many years. It's what held back the poor horrible childhood I had. It was all of the mistakes I had made and damage I had done in relationships, good and bad, friends and personal. And it wasn't really until 2013 I knew I needed to change. My heart started stirring. I knew I wasn't feeling right. I knew the path I was on was going to cause me to lose my son, or I was going to die, and he was going to have to face that reality. And so by about 2014, I had moved here, met my wife, which was through the same friend. And we literally we kind of hit it off right away, but she saw, I mean, I was still drinking. I mean, I was drinking a 24 pack of beer right after work every day. That was my life. And she's like, look, and I don't mind kind of being your friend here. We just met, but the kid needs better. She kind of made that reality more of a echo in the ear, constant, without being naggy about it and not being like, hey, I'm going to turn you in or I'm going to do this. And she showed love, and I
Nice.
wasn't used to that. And it did finally click that, yes, I need to drop the alcohol. The drugs were already gone at that point. I quit doing drugs probably around 2012, 2013, gave up all drugs, smoking pot, all the other stuff I was using addiction wise on the drug side, but the alcohol wasn't, it was just still there. And finally gave that up in 2014. And it was thanks to her, partially. It was also, again, you can never do something in addiction or anything like that for someone else. It has to be for you. And that's what it finally took is, I was doing this for my son. I was doing this for this new woman I met that was showing me so much love and showing my son love. But I knew in my heart it couldn't be selfish. I couldn't just quit this to jump in a relationship for someone to take care of my kid. It had
Right.
to be, I genuinely needed to fix myself for a woman who was willing to love me. And that's what
Yeah.
I did. And I started down that path looking in the mirror, and she was amazed. I mean, I quit smoking cigarettes, I quit drinking, and I did all this kind of cold turkey. And she was like, holy moly, like, are you going to be okay? And yeah, I think I'm going to be all right. But I have a world of emotional hurt and stuff to fix. I have mental issues from all of these years of doing this that I have to work on still. And I
Right.
think that's the path that you kind of touched on. That's the path we don't most addicts don't recognize until they get into that point. And so for me, it wasn't until about 2015 I realized, holy moly, I have so much baggage. I have so much junk. And if I don't go clearing this closet out and I don't start facing it in the mirror and being accountable to actions I had, I'm going to I may not go back to addiction, but I'm not ever going to be right mentally or be present for my son and my wife.
Right. Yeah, I love that distinction too, because, we have this idea of the dry drunk syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where you stop drinking, but you don't really heal. And the
Hmm.
beauty of recovery
Yeah.
is the freedom that comes from not only do I not want that thing anymore that was killing me, hurting me, taking
Hmm.
from me, but I learn how to be with myself and
Comfortable in
how
our own skin.
Yes, and you're just like, "Oh, this is freedom," because
Yeah.
addiction is such a cage. It's such a prison. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's really beautiful that you just kept moving forward in that and then really doing the work.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like you just said, it was the getting comfortable in your own skin. Like I can't even remember forever how long I hated myself. I always said I'd never live to be 30. It was just like I was an adrenaline junkie. I raced cars. I've been in 26 motor vehicle accidents, motorcycles over 100 miles an hour, multiple. I mean, if I was the guy anywhere at any party or any time that if you said it couldn't be done, I'd be like, watch this. I'm going to show you this can be done. And I'd always,
Yeah,
it'd always end up in some kind of crazy injury or something silly. Um, but it took me a while to realize like it's okay to love myself. It's okay to accept my past, understand it more, take time to understand what these damages or these guilt things and these fear. I had a really good counselor. This was in 2005. Again, like you said, I was in and out of a lot of places. I went through counseling. I was in counseling for 18 years from my childhood on, due to how our childhood was. Some of it stuck, which helped me probably get to where I am now and not be worse off with some of the things I did. But I had one counselor named Mr. Gregg who was in a program down in Daytona, Florida, and he made the most sense. He said something to me one time, and it kind of clicked in my head that the biggest thing with addiction is that we are fear. All addicts fear a world that's so overwhelmingly big that we don't understand it. So the fear of addiction, the fear that comes rooted in addiction, whether it's fear of a failure of a divorce, fear of not being a good parent, fear of I can't function without alcohol and drugs, fear of I'm not good enough to get the good job in the raise. The fears is what he talked about a lot in some of the counseling programs and the meetings we go to with him. And he's like, humans fear this enormous world that we're born into that we don't understand.
right.
There's so much we just don't understand in this massive universe, and we're born with fear. How we grow and learn to understand that fear can lead us into that addiction, and that addiction driven by fear and guilt and our mistakes. And some of what he taught was just profound to me at that time. And in 2005, it was like this guy gets it. And this guy, mind you, he was a former heroin addict. They found him half dead on a park bench one day, brought him back to life, got him into recovery. To this day, he's clean and sober. The guy used to be a huge businessman in Daytona, owned clubs, everything, and he lost it all. And they
Yeah.
literally they saved his life on a park bench. And just an amazing guy, turned into a counselor, started doing counseling, drug and treatment programs. That's what he does now. And
Yeah.
just an amazing guy. I've kept in touch with him over the years. He's just an amazing man. But he taught me a lot on that. And then the other one is there was another guy at that program, Mr. Tom is what we called him, and he taught on relationships. That was his whole thing. He didn't talk about drugs. He didn't talk about alcohol. All the guy preached about was relationships. So as human beings, we some people consider what they do in their daily life and their relationships healthy. He taught the recognition of what is healthy relationships. How do we have relationships before addiction, during addiction, and after addiction? How are these healthy? How are these safe? What did we do to damage them? And how can we move forward not doing the same mistakes in relationships?
Yeah, I like that that's a priority. I mean, they always say that that's the number one factor that determines happiness is the quality of our relationships. But yet
Mm-hmm.
that's something that is not talked about in school, in treatment. And,
Yep.
that's always an afterthought. So, yeah, that's really beautiful. And, that fear and the overwhelm and all of it, like as you were describing that, that's one of the things in sobriety that I love so much is the acceptance
Mm-hmm.
and the lowering of expectations. It's like, yeah, you may not get that job. That job isn't for you. You
Yeah.
are going to be a shitty parent once in a while. And you know what? When you are, you
Own
come
it.
back to the table
Yep.
and you clean it up and you do it right. And that too is a gift and a lesson that is precious. You will maybe get divorced. I got divorced
Yeah.
when I was 11 years sober. I'm still in court. It's been a
Right.
3-year nightmare process.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, and this is also making me stronger, showing me who I am, allowing me to finally stand up for myself, something I never did
Yeah.
before. I would always just roll over. Like I'm getting to learn how strong and resilient
You
I
are. Yeah.
truly am. And so that's the difference. Before, you just go, ah, and you just freeze, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just so many things. And then you're like, okay, everything's figure outable, and I'm just going to put one foot in
Hmm.
front of the other. And the other thing that you hit on earlier that I think is really important is the shame, is
Yeah.
because shame really is one of the biggest catalysts for
Hmm.
addiction. And it's like, you know, why are you ashamed? Because of what I did when I was drinking. Well, why are you drinking? Because I'm ashamed. And it becomes this
Yes.
loop. And, if you're really terrified of a big world, become an addict, because your world gets real small. And the
Hmm.
only thing that matters is you and that drug
Yep.
and the addiction, whether it's,
Correct.
to people, to shopping, to, it doesn't matter, fill in the blank, whatever your escapism is. Now all of a sudden your world is like almost controllable, and it's
Right.
almost, as chaotic as it is, it's very predictable,
Hmm.
because you know exactly what all your days look like. It's like
Yeah.
this really crazy way to try to trick yourself.
Stability. I mean, like I said, when my friend offered us to move here to Oklahoma, I was living in Oregon, taking care of 85 head of horses on the side of a mountain in Looking Glass Valley, Roseburg, for a lady whose husband had had a stroke and was being taken care of to die at home. And that me and my son went from Florida, homeless, literally just got custody, all the way to Oregon, taking care of horses on a ranch. And I was up at 5 a.m. and not getting back in the house till 9. My son was just sitting in there with my mom came out there at one point. So he was in the house the entire days. So the whole 8 month period we were out there, never interacted with us like me in general. I was working. I'd come home every once in a while. I'd get a break. I'd be able to come to the house for lunch. Again, I recognize this isn't healthy. And when my friend said, "Hey, why don't you come out here to Oklahoma? There's work here." He goes, "I'll get you guys a place. If you want to come here, I'll get you a place." He said, "There's only one stipulation. I'll pay for it. I'll get you in it first, last month rent, the whole nine." He goes, "The only stipulation I ask is if you do move here, you and your son have to stay here for an entire year." He said, "I want you to get your son stable." He said, "That's
Yeah.
it." This is a guy who I hadn't spoke with since high school, 20 plus years, and he recognized it, from the outside, something I knew, but I wasn't able to change at the moment. And he goes, "Your son needs stability, right? Addicts, stability." Like you just said, when I came out of addiction, it was amazing when I started putting the pieces back together. And I was fortunate to have my wife who was patient and helped me put those pieces together. She's very stable. She's very 3 months in advance plan everything. She's like that. But it for me to get my life back like that stable, not just for my son, but for me, coming from addiction and alcoholism where everything was spontaneous, everything was chaotic, everything was destructive, to go to like, okay, now, like you said, I know what to expect each day with my life. I
Yeah.
get up at 4 a.m. I'm in my home gym for an hour or two working out before I even go to work. Then I go to work. I work in the senior industry, helping elderly and seniors. And that's what I enjoy now. I mean, I've been in that industry about 2.5 years now. Love it. I love helping everybody's grandma and grandpa. It's like they help me get through the day. So I go to work and I deal with that. And but it's stable. I know what to expect. Before it was, when's my next beer? When's my next fix? When's my next, am I going to have a house? Am I going to keep custody of my son? I mean, just so many unknowns. And
Yeah.
just having that stability was great. There was a lot of my friends that didn't, we call them friends. A lot of friends didn't stick around. They're like, "Oh, well, Dean got sober." Some of those same friends are still at the same bar stools in Florida, since high school in college. And it's amazing what changes in your life when you get clean and you get clarity and you work through. I had one counselor tell me years ago, as long as you've been using is how long it's going to take to fix yourself. And I was like, well, shoot, I'm screwed. Like I've got so many years into this. Maybe there's another route. And he's like, no, 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 it's not always the case. But he said, if you're 5 years addict, it's going to take you 5 years to unwire the brain that you've created in the addiction. Get rid
Yeah.
of those passive habits, those things that you've just become to make bad habits, make good habits out of. He goes, it's going to take you time to reverse those things. Just as much time it took to damage, it's going to take to get the damage fixed. And that's part of what kept me using and drinking so long. Is I was like, man, I've just been doing this so long.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to get better. And I did. And I was like, it was amazing when I first couple years started getting more and more clarity. I felt better. Like you just said, when we started, cleaner, healthier. I started working out again. I started eating right. two heart valves that were faulty that I was about to have open heart surgery on. When I made the changes in my lifestyle, eating right, stopping smoking, stopping drinking, all these things, I was doing every 3 month checkups on my heart. And I went back after the first year of changing all of these things in my life. And the doctor's like, man, you can come back every 6 months. Came back that next 6 months. He's like, you don't need to come back for another year or two. He goes, something has changed. I don't know what it is, but your heart valves are not really healed, but they're repairing. And he said, and so we're not going to do open heart surgery on you this young. And I was like, wow. And he goes, what did you do? And I was like, I've quit drinking, quit smoking, and I'm physically taking better care of myself. He said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's it. Which again to me was a miracle. You know, it was like, wow, I did this, and I never thought I could, because I always, the one counselor put it in my head that it was like, man, you're gonna be, if you were using for 18 years, you got another 18 years to fix yourself. And I was kind of stuck in that mindset, that I wasn't going to be able to. But it's the more people I surround myself now, because I'm around jujitsu, I'm around that's what my son does, martial arts and stuff like that. I boxed for many years. The more I surround myself with like-minded people, let alone people that maybe they were never addicts. I meet a lot of people in jujitsu and stuff that they've never been addicts. They're just good. There's firefighters, police officers. That's how they've lived their whole life right out of school, and they've never been down that road. But you know what? The encouragement, even though they know my story, the encouragement I get from them, the like-minded behaviors and goals they have, the successfulness. I mean, those are the things I feed off of now. Maybe that's my new addiction, I guess.
What a great one to switch into, though. I mean, I ran a very successful martial arts school for almost 8 years. And
I read that you were a black belt.
yes, yeah. And I am such a firm believer. I mean, especially when we talk about kids, and the biggest thing martial arts taught me is how to fail. Like,
Right.
I was never taught how to fail. I was only taught it wasn't okay. Like, I grew up in a home with insane expectations. Like, if you got
Mm-hmm.
to be, you're grounded. If you bump up,
Right.
like, so I think that was part of when I just went off the rails. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I can't meet these standards. So I
Expectations.
just go completely the opposite direction
Yep.
and then try it all ever. But that was one of the biggest gifts of martial arts, was like, especially watching these kids learn that failure, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, failure is the key to success, and to
Yes.
learn how to fail with dignity and reverence, and to allow that to just fuel you to get
Mm-hmm.
better. I mean, what an amazing gift. And then also, when somebody's going to punch you in the face, you have to stay present. I mean, that
Yeah.
is also something in our addiction we never did. It was like, I'm just going to check out,
Yep.
and now your
You
adrenaline's
can't.
pumping. Yeah, your cortisol's going, your fight, flight,
Mm-hmm.
freeze system is activated the same way it was in addiction, except for somebody
Mm-hmm.
hurt your feelings or whatever happened, right? Now I need to
Yep.
go drink. They dump me, whatever. I'm upset. My nervous system is dysregulated. I'm going to check out. Well, no, you can't.
Yep.
Now you have to literally learn to stay in the
Yeah.
fight. It's really, really incredible. And I know a lot of people who, they say we need to replace that emptiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That space that the addiction filled, whether it's with God, with family, with, something. And by all means, martial arts
Yeah.
is such a great.
What did you get your black belt in?
So it's it really is kind of a mashup of Taekwondo,
Mm-hmm.
Thai, and Krav Maga.
Okay.
So those were the disciplines, and that was the
Very cool.
black belt. And then I'm a blue belt in jujitsu. I
Yeah.
really tried on that one, and I was just like, man, I love it.
Yep.
And it was so, so challenging.
It
That
is. My son, so I went to one class, and mind you, when I was growing up, I was in every martial art you could think of. And so I did Taekwondo, I did Ninjutsu, I did karate, I did all of these things as a young kid. And I was, like I said, I was an adrenaline junkie, so I was always fighting. I was always fighting as a young kid. I guess my mom at some point was smart enough to go, hey, if he's gonna always fight, he might as well know how to fight. And she put me in stuff. Boxing was my favorite. I loved when I got into boxing. It was about 15, 16, and I loved it. I absorbed every bit of it. But it's like you said, I think what I liked about it is I was face to face with somebody. There was no turning around. It was, you're in this ring, you can't leave until it's over. And with my son, we go to these events. We go to AGF. We go to all these different tournaments for him because he competes. He's an amazing athlete in jiu-jitsu. And we go there and we see all these parents screaming and yelling, break their arms, kill them. And it's like, and we bring our son since the day he started jiu-jitsu. We have always said, Devin, have fun. Every tournament, we're like, go out there and have fun. And there's kids with the mom on the sideline that he's going against, and they're screaming, tear his head off, choke him out, kill him, and it's like, we're just yelling it from the sideline, Devin, are you having fun? Like, have fun. And he does. He doesn't go to compete to win. He doesn't really care win or loss. He really enjoys the sport. He's really good at it. But he honestly, it's so funny to me to see someone just go in there. Like you said, he goes in there, he can't run. His fight or flight is just, he's so used to just going in there and having fun. All these other kids, it's murder people for their parents to get the win or get the gold. And for Devin, it's like, hey, I competed, I failed, I might have lost, I got a second place trophy. Who cares? It's so funny to see it, to watch him just go out there and face his challenges. These kids that are bigger than him. We accidentally the last tournament put him in a up to 175. They had nobody in his weight bracket. He's 16 years old, 120 pounds. He had to go against two adults, grown men, 30-year-old men. He submitted the one, and the other one he got second place to. I guess they had a 3-match. He ended up winning one, and then the other guy won the other two. But these were grown men. And we were like, Devin, you're going to get murdered out there. And he was like, he went in there with the best attitude, went in there, and the guy won. And the guy even came over to the sideline. He goes, man, hey, I know you were in the wrong bracket because you didn't have anyone in your weight class. He goes, you really put up a fight. He goes, going against a 16-year-old kid, he goes, this was pretty challenging, which was nice. But like you said, it's in addiction. It's like you said, that fight or flight. This, like you said, same cortisol, same things are kicking in. It is amazing. I tried to do jujitsu with him one time because he wanted me to. I went in there. I'm so out of shape as far as that type of stuff anymore. I'm in great shape physically. But I lift weights. I do a little more cardio, but I'm not a martial arts roll on the ground kind of guy anymore. And we went to one class, and I told him, I said, I'll be a white belt forever. I'll come there. You can beat me up, whatever, but I'm gonna stay a white belt in jiu-jitsu forever.
It's a different animal. I mean, just the level of exhaustion you
It's a
reach.
great workout.
Yeah.
You do learn what was cool is I learned, you learn a lot of the when people are choking you out and stuff like that. I mean, that fear that some people get, and even in addiction, those fears, people don't really know how to react when they can't breathe. Of course you can tap, but it brings you right to really getting to know yourself, like we talked about earlier, really knowing that who you are, how like you said, how strong are you? Like you learn those things through these new challenges. Um, and it's amazing. And even through recovery, it's the same thing. You learn so much about yourself, your strengths, things you didn't know you had in you. And
Yeah.
what's encouraging to me is watching others succeed. That's kind of what Two Party Podcast. It's kind of what we've done. We've had a lot of guests on, and at the end of the show, we always ask, what got you where you are, as far as like, what was your hardest part in life? How did you get through it? And you've explained a little bit of yours. Nowadays, how do you get through things that are hard?
I certainly have my tools. I think it's kind of like, I'll use the self-defense analogy, right?
Yep.
Because, for example, Krav Maga, that is if you were attacked, somebody grabbed you, choked you, it's how do you use your elbows? How do you break free? How do you hit groins? How do you, whatever. But that shit better be automatic. If somebody grabs you, your body better just know what to do, right? So what they'll tell you, though, and I believe this when it comes to emotional intelligence as well, is don't put yourself in the situation. Don't walk down that street. Don't wear your headphones. Don't look down, right? Like be
I think
up, be
all
aware.
martial arts teaches that, right? It's a self-defense.
Right.
Part of that defense is not putting yourself in that situation.
Don't be in it. And so prevention is really the best medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, a lot of it is I have my daily meditation practice. I move my body every day, whether that's at Orange Theory or like I just went for a 4-mile hike. I get out in nature. I surround myself with people that are really positive, that love me, that care about me, that are rooting for me, my intimate relationship. My partner is my biggest cheerleader. We're not adversaries. I'm
That's
not
it.
coming home dealing with him. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's my bud. We're gonna hang out. Like he makes my life easier and
Yes.
better, right?
Yes.
So I have a lot of friends that lift me up and a lot of passions that I enjoy. I do meaningful work. So it's like all those things are in place so that when it gets hard, which it does, whether
Yep.
it's legal issues I'm still dealing with
Hmm.
with my ex or lifes, right?
Right.
In those moments, I've learned to just get still and just
Hmm.
be with it. And my first thing is to like feel it and then
Yep.
to get really present with it. So, like, where is it in my body? And a lot of times mine is in my gut, it's in my power center. Sometimes it's in my throat, my
Hmm.
voice, but I just notice where it is. And then I get curious about it. Like, what are you here to show me?
Right.
When you have a really painful emotion, it's like it feels real, but is it true? Because
Right.
it's important that we don't tell stories around it that are going to make the thing worse. It's like
Yes.
it's not the first arrow that kills you, it's the second. And the second
Hmm.
is your stories about how I'll never get through this. This always
Right.
happens to me. And a lot of us who are addicts, we have to really watch that victim martyr mindset because
Mhm.
that's who we were in our addiction. So that energetic programming lives in us.
Yeah.
So I get really intentional too about radical responsibility over myself. I cannot control what is happening outside of me. I cannot
Hmm.
control what my ex-husband is doing in court, any of that. But my responsibility, the stories I tell about who and what I am, my faith in God and in myself, I
Hmm.
am responsible for, and my actions to not roll in the mud with swine. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right. Right.
responsible for all that.
Yeah.
And a lot of time the swine is my own mind,
Yes. The
And
stinking
so
thinking, as they say.
oh my
Yeah.
God, it can be relentless, right? But the biggest trap, I think, for so many of us is this shouldn't have happened to me.
Right.
You know, that martyr energy. And it's like you cannot make space for that. The second you witness it
Yep.
and become the observer of that energy, it's like, nope, that's not true. We are 100% in control.
Yeah.
I am responsible. What do I want to do with this?
Yeah. How can I
And it
how can I receive this? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the world is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And when
Yep.
you really believe that, then even problems become like 3D chess games. And you're like, all right, let's figure this
Yeah.
out.
Let's
Like,
play
how can
this.
I get
Yeah.
creative with this?
Yep.
And you just remember it's not serious. Like, we're here to just play. And I
Hmm.
love the analogy, if you ever played Monopoly as a kid, or whatever, sometimes the rules go your way and
Yep.
sometimes they don't.
They don't.
And sometimes you win and sometimes you
Yep.
lose, but you're not like, oh my God, I lost this
Uh-huh.
Monopoly.
Yeah.
It's an experiment. You're just learning. Life
Yep.
is just a constant game of, I'm going to move these pieces. That didn't work
And
out.
something
Great.
and everything around it's going to change. Yeah.
Yes.
See what's going to happen. It's funny you said the this shouldn't have happened to me. So the same counselor, Mr. Gregg, in one of his meetings, if somebody came in there and soapboxed and was playing victim, that was one of the things he would listen for. And they would say that. They'd say, well, this shouldn't have happened to me. And he'd say, what else did you have going on that day? And I mean, it would just they would just kind of like shut down and think. And it was kind of funny. He would always use that. And when you said that, that's the first thing that came to my mind is there's a lot of things that shouldn't happen. You would hope it shouldn't happen to you, but this is life, right? How do we live life without things happening to us? And it's really how do we react? What do we do when we do have bad situations come up in life? It's how do we react? It's like you said, I don't have control over everyone around me. If my boss is yelling at me or this person's yelling at me, I have choices I can make. I don't control their behavior or how they're acting, but I do have choices. I don't have to stick with that boss and that job. I don't have to, I can defend myself in a civil and professional manner. I have choices, but the thing to again, to be like, it shouldn't have happened to me. Well, I had a pretty rough childhood. It shouldn't have happened to me. It did. It made me
Right.
who I am now. I'm stronger now because I lived through the hell I had as a childhood, but I'm good now because I know that's not a childhood any child should have to go through. So I recognize that, and I don't do that with my son, which was the track we were headed down. That same dysfunctional circle, I broke that, I ended that. But I see it in other parents around us, and I try to guide them, try to give them advice. Um, I'm a big advocate for kids. I'm a big advocate for seniors. It's just I had a horrible childhood, and my childhood kind of dictates where I am with kids. I love kids. I want to see successful kids, and anytime I can reach out or help parents or give advice, like, hey, that's really not the best. You parent how you want to parent, but this is kind of an option I'll throw out there. Seniors are the same. Seniors. It's being in the senior industry. It's sad to see so many families just put mom or dad in the assisted living or in the homes, and they don't visit, they don't come share, they don't come call. Some of them they come out of their assisted living rooms, and they literally are just trying to socialize with other people because they don't have family anymore, because the
Right.
family's not there. And I've spoke with multiple addicts and alcoholics. There's a couple that I've ran into that are alcoholics currently because of their situation in senior living. It's sad, but the one thing that I also recognize too in life is addiction, alcoholism, drugs, all of it. There's no there's no targeted person. There's no targeted genre of people that it goes after. It's in everything. There's addicts and alcoholics and everything. And like you touched on earlier, it can be anything. It can be food. It can be, whatever it may be as an addict. If you're excessively overusing or abusing something, you're an addict of it.
Right.
Even social media, nowadays everybody's social media crazy. There's so many friends of mine from high school growing up, and I find them on social media, and it's like, wait, what's going on here? And they're there nonstop taking pictures and videos, and I promote that. I do a podcast show. I love that, but in a healthy manner. There's got to be a draw a line of a healthy manner.
Yeah, the technology addiction
We live in a
is
weird world.
we do. And I mean, what you're talking about, all these people, that are dying alone, like that didn't happen before.
No.
I mean, it happened to some people, but
Yes.
not as great that it is
Families
today.
took care of each other and nurtured each other growing up in the generations. I mean, I'll be 50 next year. I mean, I grew up in the late 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, things were way different then.
Yeah, like it meant something, like
Yep.
family, marriage,
Yep.
all of it. It was like commitment, loyalty. And I,
Hmm.
I feel there's a massive breakdown
Yeah.
of traditional values. And some of that stuff probably needed to be broken down
Yeah.
and reassessed and kind of like let's move those puzzle pieces
Yep.
around a bit. But some of it is like, yeah, it's really sad. It really is awful to watch a lot of what is happening, and you can just see this direct correlation with social media and
Hmm.
running a martial arts school. Like those kids were not on screens all the time. They
Correct.
were in their training, developing, learning, and those kids would come in and look you right in the eye, hi, Miss Jojo, how are you
Yep.
today? And they would have a full conversation with you. And I run into kids in the real world, and it's like they don't know, a lot of them, how to communicate
They don't
anymore.
have
They're
those social values. Yes.
Yeah, they're on a screen
Yep.
all the time, and the way that that impacts brain development and dopamine, and I mean, we can go on and on and
Oh,
on,
yeah.
but it starts with the parents. The bottom line
Hmm.
is, if you're around your kid all the time with your face in your phone,
Yep.
you have zero right
Yeah.
to police that child, and they are learning from you that that is okay. And so it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I mean, I do it periodically, but I'll go on these retreats and just
Hmm.
go off grid
Break
for
away from
14.
all of it. Yeah.
We need a reset, all of us,
Yep.
like especially the dopamine junkies like we are. I mean, I have an app on my phone called Opal that blocks me out
Hmm.
of my apps for most of the day
Right.
because I don't trust myself. So you know
Yeah.
what? Great. I suck at
Yeah.
self-regulation.
I
So
think my phone has that meditate option where if you put it on that for a period of time, it won't let you get on the phone at all. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like do what you need to do to protect you from yourself,
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on porn. I mean, it's talk about the erosion of intimacy
Yeah.
and relationships. And again, I'm not here to like it's not a moral conversation. And I
It's
think that's
not.
where we
No.
lose a lot of people. I mean, you can go the Christian route, you can go the moral
Yep.
route. I mean, people that are already in it know it's not even about the sex, it's about the anxiety that
Yep.
they are masking through that and the control. And, but it is so damaging when you really look at the research. And to me, that is the conversation to be having with men, is like,
Yep.
when you release that many chemicals and you didn't earn it,
Right.
your chemical cycle does not come to completion. You are literally creating brain damage. And
Hmm.
that's not even to go into, how do you view women? What
Yeah.
does your partner think about this? All the other things that come with it, just from the brain
Hmm.
and the chemical response of what is happening. We are not designed
Yeah.
to have that intense of an experience without it being earned.
Yeah.
And
And
so it's like,
the reality is so skewed, right? I mean, it's like you said, it's just, even with the screens in comparison. I mean, you got kids running around on screens, they're watching movies or videos all the time. That's the reality they know. When you take the screen away, they can't even. I had this talk with another guest that was on. There's no survival. What if you took any kid, pulled the screen away, dropped them in the middle of the woods? What's going to happen? They don't know how to
yeah,
survive. And it's the same, like you said, with the porn industry. It's kind of the same thing. It's not a reality. You're never going to have successful kids coming out of high school, going into college, starting their world and their relationships in a reality base. Because if that's what they're addicted to or focused on is porn, and that's a reality that becomes in their brain, they're never going to have an intimate relationship that's real. They're never going to know what it means to actually bond, work through troubles with a partner, you know, to get to the intimate points, to work through a breakup and a makeup and turn around and make it into something intimate, or just having intimate romantic time. That it doesn't exist in that world, and it's just not reality. It amazes me the kids. So it's funny you mentioned about the screen time. We don't let Devin on screens. So a lot of parents have chewed us out over the years. I mean, we've heard the good, the bad, the ugly from other parents about it. They're like, my daughter's got an iPad. My daughter's got an iPhone. My daughter's got an Apple Watch, and we're like, Devin doesn't have any of that. He's got a tablet. He is limited when he can use it. He's in a charter school. He does most of his school online. He's 16 years old, taking his college classes. He'll graduate with his associates. He's a very smart kid, very tough kid, but we don't just hand him a device to babysit him. We won't
yeah,
do that. And it's been that way from day one. He's now at the point, he's 16, so now he's like, I want to play video games. I want to do this. It's not healthy. And we've even pointed it out, and he recognizes it. Like, we've showed him where he'll spend time playing a video game for an hour or two. We'll ask him to get off it and do something, and he's just really out of his wits about it.
yeah.
And we're like, do you recognize how you're behaving right now? Yeah, yeah. He gets it. He's like, you're right. The screen does make me do different things than I should appropriately, And so the screen time thing, at 100%, I agree with you. It really is an unhealthy thing, and unfortunately, it's multiple generations now that have been with this technology, and their kids have been babysat by whether it's Nickelodeon or Disney. They've been babysat on Netflix watching movies or YouTube videos, and so there's such a big disconnect. So I mean, we're going to see generational disconnect of social understanding, relationships, how to be accountable, how to make amends with other people. It's not there.
Well, and just to highlight, one of the most important skills we can ever have that you touched on is that creative free play. I mean, you put a
Hmm.
kid out in the woods, it's like, yeah, survive, but also entertain yourself, figure it
Yeah.
out, like get creative. And the number one way to get yourself out of trauma is creativity. If the
Hmm.
brain is tapped into creativity, you are not in a trauma loop or response. So,
Right.
like, creativity and that self reliance and that independence of, you're bored, great, go do something, go make something, go create something,
Hmm.
that is such an important skill that we have lost, because it's
Yep.
like, okay, the thing I'm going to create is I'm going to press play on this screen,
Hmm.
with And again, the dopamine that gets
Yeah.
dumped into I see 3-year-olds with their iPad, and this is not to judge any parent
Right.
whatsoever.
Yeah. And that's
I,
how we are. We're like, we're not judging. We just see it's
yeah,
unhealthy.
I mean, you just know what's happening, and I am so grateful that I grew up without social media. I
Yeah.
was 23 when Facebook and MySpace
Oh,
and
that
like all
stuff
that kind of
started.
stuff came on the scene. But that, I taught college classes for 12 years, and I taught students that wanted to become therapists. So my
Mhm.
class was experiential, and we did therapy in the class. That's
Right.
how they learn how to do therapy is we
Yeah.
do real life examples in the bullying that comes from social media and
Hmm.
the outsourcing of power, where now the world tells me if I'm okay. We all had that a little bit. You walk
Yep.
down the hallway in high school and it's like, do you have the Letterman's jacket on? Are
Right.
you dating somebody popular? We
Are you
had
in
these,
the in crowd? Yeah.
yeah, like we kind of knew our standing, right?
Yep.
But there was also an internal sense of self
Hmm.
that social media has completely hijacked. Now it's like, what does the world think about
Yeah.
me? What is the expectation? I mean, it's
It's the
like,
trends. Like everything has a trend now. So like, now it's this new dance on TikTok or this new dance over here, and everyone has to do the same thing. There's no originality.
yeah,
The individual, like you said, being creative, being an individual, knowing, I'm talented at a lot of things. I'm not talented at a lot of things, but the
yeah,
things I'm talented in, those are the things I want to exploit in myself and get those out there and utilize those. My wife she's very good at art. She's an amazing artist. She paints. She does every kind of art you can imagine she can do. And she critiques herself really bad, but she's really good at it. And it's there's just no uniqueness. You can get on social media, everyone's doing the same dance. They started, what was it, the ice bucket challenge. Everyone had to do the ice bucket challenge. It's like, and that's cool, it's for a great cause, but getting back to individuals, we all have talents, we all have these strengths, and I think we've lost a lot of that. Like you said, I mean, everyone's tapped into the same thing. Their brains are kind of doing the same thing, causing this brain damage, this trauma that's preventing people from being unique, being individuals, that self-worth that, you don't see and get that from social media. That's something that has to be earned in the real world.
well, and the aspect of comparison too. I mean, I think as we get older, we get sober, we do our work, we start to understand that other people are meant to be a source of inspiration. When I see somebody
Hmm.
doing quote unquote better than me, I'm like, I want to learn from that person. I
Yeah,
don't feel bad about myself. I'm not like, oh, I'm a piece of crap because this person
is
has
better.
built
Yeah,
bigger coaching business
yeah.
or has more followers or I mean just
When
what.
we grew up, there was role models. You,
Yeah, I'm
you
like,
had role models.
okay,
Yeah.
am I jealous? Cool. I want what they have. What
Yep.
is that? Let me figure out how to go get it. But that's a very healthy
Hmm.
mindset that's been cultivated over so many years where I just think about a 13-year-old kid that is like looking at this life that is, again, I'll just go back. Here I am, this Playboy model dating an NFL player. Yeah, I wanted to kill myself,
Hmm.
So I mean, we just can't make assumptions about people's lives when we're
Hmm.
seeing their highlight reels. I
Right.
mean, I have a lot of friends that are very famous influencers,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, yeah, right before we took that photo where we're on our vacation in Bali, we look like the happiest couple. We were about to get divorced,
Right. Yeah.
It's just,
It's very real. Yeah.
well, and with the filters and with the shit, it's just like, talk about body
Uh-huh.
image
Yeah.
issues. And even during COVID, everybody went online, right? And
Yep.
I'm talking about adults now primarily, although I'm sure this happened to kids. And you're seeing yourself all the time through this
Hmm.
distorted camera.
Yeah.
Plastic surgery like skyrocketed
Oh,
because all of a
yeah.
sudden everybody's looking at their face all the time going, oh, I need to fix this, I need to fix that.
Probably caused more. What is it? And you probably know better than I do. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. Is it body agor? What is it when?
Dysmorphia.
That's what I was thinking of. And that's a good point. I never thought of that. I mean, during COVID, yes, everybody was looking at themselves more on cameras. They were doing more live videos, Teams, whatever it may be, Zoom. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that increased mental health on that aspect probably increased. It's just it's so odd to me, like you said. Even the other day, I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers, and it's his daughter in high school has a friend who has reached the $1 million level on social media. She's in high school. She's a millionaire. And the family's all like, oh, cool, she did this, but they're also the parents are also like they've allowed it, but then now they're like, we see it's so unhealthy, and now we want to cut it off, and they can't.
Yeah, you cannot
How do
turn
you
that.
stop a crazy child who has unlimited money? How do you just cut that off? You can't. She's going to create a new account. She's going to run away from home. She's going to go get herself out of this parental unit of the household with her money. She's going to hire an attorney to do so. So they're battling. Like, yeah, isn't it crazy to even think? But we were talking about the other day, and they're like, the lady I was talking to was like, yeah, it's my friend's, daughter, and she just hit the $1 million status on her social media, and we were just in shock, and we were discussing. I was like, man, when I was in high school, that I wasn't even, I probably should have been, but I wasn't. I mean, I started my first business at like 16. I took over one of my dad's businesses at 16. It was successful, and I ran it, but it was a different mindset. I wasn't at that age. I wasn't trying to be the millionaire. I mean, we all talked about it like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had $1 million? But it wasn't I wasn't trying to be a millionaire in high school.
Right.
I was living my life. I was socializing. I was getting experiences that I needed, to grow to be a better person and adult. Some of them didn't work out so well, but here I am, right? But it was in shock. I'm like, dude, I know someone in my community that is in high school making $1 million a month. A month. This is a
It's just
high school girl. There's no
very
need. There's no
different.
need. The parents could be set for life just managing that. And then by the
Right.
time she turns 18 and runs away with it because it's her money, their life changes. But there's so many unhealthy dynamics to that. I mean, I'm proud of the girl for getting there, but at the same time, it's like, wow. And the parents, like I said, the parents thought this was just a thing. And then it started working, and she was earning money. And then now they recognize this was such a bad decision we made.
Yeah. And that's the thing to remember. There
And
is
you
a
can't put it back
consequence
in the
to
bottle
everything.
now. Yeah, you can't
No.
put it back in the bottle. It's out.
Wow.
So
Unbelievable.
it's a weird world. I mean, I love technology. I'm a computer engineer. I went to school for that. I love computers and technology, but I think it's really messed up. Generational, it's messed up a lot of people, unfortunately, sadly, and a lot of the youth, of course.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see, especially with AI and
Hmm.
all this
AI is a
technology,
whole nother conversation, right? I mean, that's crazy.
where it's going to lead us. And I think, as always, it is our responsibility to figure out the path that we want to walk and how we want to walk it and who we want to be through all of these changes. I mean, I think back to our parents' generation and our grandparents, generation, and it's like, yeah, they think that there's going to be a nuclear bomb and they're doing drills
Yeah,
hiding under the desks. I mean, they had their own like real
yeah,
issues that they
yeah.
were dealing with that we'll never understand. But I mean, you just think about the advancement of technology and what these younger generations have experienced,
Hmm.
I mean, it's incredible. Like, the internet just changed everything, and then
Yeah.
social media changed everything, and then AI is going to change everything. And
Again.
it's like, usually it would be 1,000 years, and we'd have these advancements sprinkled through. And it's like, no, the rate of change
It's
we're trying to adapt
faster
to
and
and keep.
faster. Yeah.
Oh,
I
it's
mean, I
insane.
remember what was it? AOL dial-up. I mean, I remember my first early days of it was that and you had the modem making all the noise. And by the time you got on Messenger with your friends, you were stoked, and then it would hang up. And then it would have to
Yeah.
reboot again. I mean, that was how fast our internet and our resources for information were on the internet back then. And even then we were amazed. We were like, this is awesome. And you'd hang up
Yeah.
50 times with your friends and be upset, but at the same time, it was the best time in the world. And then now, like you said, AI, I had a conversation with one of Antonio Tarver, who fought Roy Jones. He trained in Tampa for that fight. His coach Jimmy Williams was one of my. He trained me on a bunch of stuff. I reached out to him the other day. His whole messenger, we've communicated through Messenger for years and kept in touch. His messenger is all AI controlled now. So it took me about 2 minutes to realize I was having a conversation with an AI.
Oh,
And I finally just texted him and was like, "Hey, I just caught what you did with your messenger." And he's like, "Sorry, man, I get too many messages. Now AI handles it." And I'm like, "Wow, that's where we're
no.
at. Like you can literally have an AI have a full conversation as long as you want in your messenger. You don't ever have to interact. It just goes based off of the information it has of you."
Yeah.
I was like, "That is scary." And he texted me back. He's like, "Man, I'm so sorry."
Incredible.
Yeah,
I know. And it's like, it's happening. It's one of those, this shouldn't be happening. It's like, well, it is.
it is.
And
What do we do?
figure, yeah, figure out how to use it in ways that feel healthy,
Yep.
keep those personal connections with
Well,
individuals.
for you and what you're doing right now, how, the good things you can do with this technology. How can we use AI to help other people that need to get where we're at, right? How can we help people use AI to teach recovery, to help support groups, to help people in domestic violence, to all of these things? How can AI be a useful tool instead of one that's damaging, or it's just being used to promote social media accounts so they can make more money, which is great, but reality. How can we use these tools? It's a scary thing. I mean, even me, like I said, I computer engineer. I love computers, man. I used to build them, had my own shop, but it's scary to me. I'm amazed, but I'm still like, I don't know that this is a good thing. But we got to live with it.
I think the one positive is it can save a lot of time.
Yes,
And time is the greatest currency. So if you have more time to be with the people you love, use it intentionally in that way,
for sure, for sure.
which is great because at the end of the day, it just all comes down to connection.
Yep. Well, speaking of time, we're running pretty good here. There's no time limit on Two Party Podcasts. I've had people stay on for an hour and a half discussions. When we have good dialogue, we have good dialogue. I love having you here. Typically, what we do with our guests on the show is we will usually wait about a year and we'll invite them back on in a year, see how things changed. If anything happens or in between, obviously you can reach out. We'll get you back on here to discuss some stuff. What are some things before we get off here? What are some things in your experience and where you've gone and where you've been teaching about all of this, what are just a couple things you could point out, maybe the most important things that you could offer advice to the guests in the audience that may be suffering or maybe need some help? What are some points you could probably give to just maybe help one person in the audience with something you did or something they should do that may help them?
I think for me, the thing that has really been a game changer is really understanding like intellectually, but like also with my heart, because sometimes we hear things, we can have aha moments, they make sense to us intellectually, but we're not
Mm-hmm.
ready to like move as them with them yet. But when this one really landed, it was a game changer. And that is the only way out is through. And this idea that whatever it is that we are so afraid to face and to feel within us, it's like the second you really allow yourself to go into your shame, to go into your pain, to go into your trauma, like and feel the full extent of it, like that is freedom, and it loses its power as you allow yourself to experience it. But the things that we run from run our lives,
Yep, I've heard that
and
before.
it's so true. And it's like, it's a feeling. It's 90 seconds most of the time, but it's learning to regulate our nervous system. When we start to feel overwhelmed, when we start to feel hijacked, when our heart starts beating, our gut goes, we're in that despair, whatever. It's like, you've got to be able to intervene when you're at a 6, because once you're at an 8, it's game over, So it's like learning to be still enough and present enough with yourself to go, wow, I am getting dysregulated. And what do I need to do? And how do I soothe myself? And maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's tapping, emotional freedom technique,
Mm-hmm.
tapping, mantras, do 20 push-ups. Find
Yep.
what works for you, pattern interrupt, and then be more at choice. We don't want to be caught in a reactionary spiral and be the victim of our
Mhm.
emotional experience. It's like do something to interrupt the intensity of that moment and then choose how you want to feel about it.
Right.
And it's like you do. And a lot of that is learning to hold the both and.
Yep.
Like we want to be totally okay and everything's totally okay or it's totally terrible. And it's
Hmm.
like learning to live in the gray and be like, yes, this is here and I still deserve to be at peace. I still deserve joy. I'm still going to find meaning and joy in my life, even though I'm holding this awful thing.
Yep.
And I'm not going to let the stories that I'm telling about this thing ruin my experience. I mean, one of the things I will go to when I'm really in it is like, if I died tonight, did I live this day in a way that honors my soul? And
Hmm.
it's like, no, when I'm sitting here just freaking out, like telling stories that haven't happened, letting my anxiety win.
Yep.
No, that's not my truth. This isn't who I am. Like, I want to honor this precious gift of my life. And I choose to show up even though these things are here. So it's like the only way out is through. Deal with your shit, face
Yep.
it, feel it. Like you will be so much better for it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and for sharing, about yourself and some of the things that you think about and some of the things you've lived through and how you've got there. I appreciate you being on the show today, and I look forward to having you back. I think you've shared a lot of good information, and these are topics that I can talk about forever. I love discussing recovery. I love discussing how people have overcame. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for me is when I see people overcome. I don't know if I'm more excited for them than they are when I see people just get above and beyond the things that are challenging them. So I appreciate having you here, and I hope to have you back soon.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
For sure. Have a great day.
You too.